monophongization would be, in a process that we call smoothing, right? Monophongization would be the last stage, because from our, right, we reduce it to two elements, and then we reduce it to only one, our house. So our house, the grading, yes, leveling or smoothing, yes, until we reach monophongization. I know none of those cases are in the word tail, but those are the processes that usually affect vowels. So if you go back to your word, you describe your diphthong, you can say, well, in this particular case, the diphthong is not affected by prefortis clipping or nasalization, and is not undergoing any process of smoothing. Okay? But by providing that information, you are showing that you know what happens to vowels when they are surrounded by other segments, and you are describing how other segments may affect vowels. So that's why we give you the word in there. And then, well, definitely we go for the description of the third. We go for the description of the third segment. First, second, and third, you can organize it in terms of first, second, and third. In terms of stages, Rocio clearly establishes that, okay, the first sound is this, the second sound is that. So I'll start by describing this first sound. You organize it in order, first, second, and third. Yes, which is a possibility, right. Now, what other information can you give? This is your presentation. The more you say in the presentation, the less questions you are asked, the earlier the exam finishes. As simple as that. As simple as that. Yes. A suggestion. You started by describing each segment. The first segment belongs to a group of segments which are very peculiar in English, yes, which are plosives. So if you start by describing the first segment and provide the characteristics, right, at some point, yes, make reference to where that segment is in the phonological system. Okay, this particular segment, the first segment, is part of the group of segments under the group of stops, or under the group of plosives. And then you go from the particular to the general, and you start talking about, yes, you have to mention, yes, what a plosive is. You have to mention what a plosive is, and you have to give information about plosives. In the same way, you have to talk about the vocalic elements, yes? And the glide is not the same as the monophone. So in the English phonological system, there are vowels and consonants, there are vowels and diphthongs. So what's the difference between a pure vowel and a diphthong, yes? And how can you account, yes, for that particular difference, yes? And how are vowels, yes? How are vowels produced as compared to consonants? The description changes completely, right? So at a point, yes, you will be talking about classification of consonants and vowels, yes? If you mentioned criteria, when you come to the lateral approximant, ooh, that's a big deal, because you cannot go away. Yes, if you have a lateral approximant, you cannot go away without talking about contoids and vocoids. Yes. So, and the thing is, if you don't talk about contoids and vocoids in your own description of the third segment and how approximants are classified, yes, in the phonological system, don't worry, that is probably one of the questions we will ask when you finish your description. Okay? This is it. Yes? So if you haven't mentioned that in the description, okay, what about the questions about the theory? Well, the questions about theory are sometimes questions about what you've said before, or what was not mentioned there, right? Okay? And then, okay, the lateral approximant. The big allophonic variant, the dark L, and that's it. Huh? Elision? Oh, of course, I mean, when you describe the third segment, yes, you talk about what you have there in particular, you talk about the approximants, you talk about these lateral approximants, and then you talk about processes in which they can be involved. And perhaps you can talk about the elision of that particular field. In all right, for example, okay, you can talk about always, you can talk about cases in which that segment is elided. Okay, you talk about all that. Again, describing each segment and then describing allophonic variant and expansion. The mentioning of elision would be part of the expansion, yes, on the third element, and that is very, very welcome. Now, very nice. We finished the description of the three elements. That's all, folks. Not possible. And they live happily ever after is not a possible ending for your presentation. You need to round off. You cannot stop abruptly, it says, well, and then there is elision of the lateral in always and already. Okay. You need an end. How would you provide an ending for the presentation? What would you say? No, I couldn't spot the voice. How would you round off your presentation?
At this stage, you have already shown the diagram.
You have the diagram, everything. You have described the three segments. How do you end your presentation? We have an introduction. This is the body. We need to finish. That's all, folks. Works very well for wonders. Yes, and they live happily ever after. Yes. You cannot. This is not to be continued. This is not going to be serious. That is cut at the climax. Yes. So for the next episode that you're ready to watch. How do you round off? Well, that's it. No. You have to say, well, that's it, academically. But to round off, what would you say?
Maybe general approach.
No, make it concrete. This is the word. because then it's always hypothetical, and I need you to have something concrete. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It's nothing wrong with a hypothesis, but then you have to do it, yes?
After you describe all the
Yes.
pros, you can say that all these pros and whatever, no sé, algo como all of these quiero decir algo como que todos los procesos hicieron hace posible hacer otra.
To make possible what? No. Does it make sense to you? No. So we need to think about something different. It's good, but these are the kind of things that we need to think of and try. So apparently it's not. That is apparently it's not working. That okay. So yes. Come again. All these segments.
Phonological system of general British accent.
But careful there. You cannot introduce something new in a conclusion. That can be part of your introduction. This monosyllabic word is made up of 3 phonological elements that are part of the accents that we might call general British. Okay? But that at the very beginning, yes? But never something new in the conclusion. If something new is in the conclusion, then something is going wrong. How do you say, in other words, that's it? Because you have no more to say. Yes? You finish. Okay? Okay. This would be the end. Well, this would be the end. Technical, descriptive. Well, this would be the end. No.
No, the end
Okay.
of the presentation on
We need a connector there.
of the presentation on the 3 segments I've been given.
If you say to round off, can we round off a description? To summarize, can we? Now I'm thinking together with you. Would you use, to summarize? Would you summarize a description?
I wouldn't say to round up because then you have to give another statement, summarize everything you've said.
Okay, so
You have
This
to add
is-
information if you
that's because to round off the description of 3 elements, yes, that are connected in the word, but are not proving anything, yes. To round off might not be the best. Whew. It's very hot in here. Yes. It's yes. So, what can you say? What do people use? What do people use in speaking? What do you use in speaking? What would you say in Spanish? How would you end this presentation if it were in Spanish?
something like to conclude.
Okay, but if you said, and in Spanish, how would you say it? Say it, Agus. Claro, porque para terminar la presentación necesitas como una conclusión en general. Y esto era la descripción de 3 elementos, ¿no? Para terminar. Y de esta manera concluye mi presentación. Now, put it in English.
Can I say something like,
Sure.
with this, I finished, or we come to the end of my presentation.
They're coming. Have you heard that? Having
said this,
said.
finish.
Having said this, and this is inclusive, yes, and the tie, yes, and the tie back to all your description. Having said this,
I believe that I have fulfilled the task
I believe,
included in the presentation.
forget about the fulfillment of the task, yes, because that would be, yes, good. But, well, having said this, I believe, and the I believe, this is a very, very interesting expression, because I believe protects you. Yes, believe me, believe it or not, the I believe is protecting you. These are the expressions that many social linguists call face work. You have mentioned different aspects of the three segments. So if you say, well, by these, I mean, I believe, well, by now, and use words such as simply, this is absolutely written like, but